For more reaction, we turn now to Michael O'Hanlon, Director of Research for the Foreign Policy Program at Brookings. Michael, assuming you just heard that, and how does that, to you, shift the calculus, if at all, when it comes to this conflict ending?
Well, I liked what I heard from the interview with Prime Minister Netanyahu because it was realistic compared to some of the things that he's aimed for. And I understand why he has wanted regime change in Iran, but I don't think that's a realistic goal. We didn't hear a lot of that talk today. We talked about instead the nuclear program, where I certainly think his ambitions and goals are realistic, and disarming Hezbollah, making sure Israel's not under attack. So to the extent that those goals can be paramount, I think there's the basis for moving forward and even eventually having a deal with Iran. I do think we'll have to allow Iran some limited amount of uranium enrichment capability, but nothing close to what would be needed for a nuclear weapon and under international monitoring. So on those points, I think Netanyahu and President Trump will have to be flexible.
Are we getting closer to an end of this conflict or no?
It's in the heads of Trump and Netanyahu primarily, so I really can't say. I should say, Trump and the Iranian regime. I think Netanyahu will largely have to accept what President Trump decides to prioritize, even though he'll certainly use his lobbying skills to try to persuade Mr. Trump wherever that may be the case. But I think Trump, has had a hard line on Iranian enrichment of uranium, and he's wanted none whatsoever, or none for 20 years. To the extent that President Trump's prepared to be a little more flexible, I think he probably could get a deal. Then there's the Strait of Hormuz issue, where I think that Iran's going to have to back off from its demand that it charge tolls. And maybe the way you get out of that is to let Iran have some access to its frozen assets as you move down a nuclear deal. And then finally on Hezbollah, that may be the trickiest one of all, because Israel, of course, wants to make sure Hezbollah can't be a threat in the future. And it's not clear how you do that, short of these ongoing limited attacks that Israel's conducting. But maybe we can agree to some kind of a long-term ceasefire on that front as well. In other words, there's those three big issues. Each one of them, you could imagine a compromise, but none of the terms that have been proposed so far are going to work. The two sides are going to have to come closer together.
In a way, and this was what Halima Croft had said yesterday, that kind of the demands on both sides are expanding because, on the Iran side, there now includes demands about what is happening with Lebanon. And on the U.S. side, it has to deal with Israel and kind of addressing that issue as well, while at the same time trying to bring this to a close, dealing with Hormuz. So do you think that's a fair characteristic, that it's actually gotten more complicated? The list has grown longer?
I think that's true since the war began, especially because of the Hezbollah and Hormuz issues, yes. Although I think Mr. Trump is in a position where he can say, not everyone's going to believe him or agree, but he can say, I've achieved the fundamental goals of the United States. We've set back Israel's nuclear and missile programs, not permanently, not forever. But if we now have adequate monitoring of very low-level enrichment, that will deal with the number one threat. I think Mr. Trump could sell that and say that the war, therefore, achieved at least the most important goals that were set out for it at the start. And I think that still is a viable path forward for him, but he's going to have to show some flexibility, I think, on the enrichment question.
And, Michael, as all of this is simmering, I can't help but notice that, an uptick in the Russian attacks on Ukraine. Obviously, the Iran war has been great for Russia. They're getting more oil revenue. They had a waiver on those sanctions, and that's able to keep funding a lot of what they're doing. So the attention being so much on this Iran conflict, at the same time, the Russian issue sits there with, we're in, what is it, year 5 of this war now?
Yes, and that's why Iran wonders if maybe it has the upper hand, because it sees Mr. Trump looming towards an election, a midterm election, where his party could well lose, partly because of this issue and associated inflation. Gas prices are going up. Russia's benefiting, as you point out. And does Mr. Trump really have the stomach to play this thing out into the summer and potentially even beyond that? By contrast, of course, Iran's running out of places to put its oil, may have to shut down its oil wells. Its economy is a shambles, and its leaders are still under threat from possible resumed military strikes. So both sides are sort of jostling for position, trying to see who has the upper hand. That's why it could take weeks or even months for this thing to resolve, as the two sides each seek a comparative advantage.